Robert, thank you so much for being here. It has been 2 and a bit years since we've been in the same room together, and I met you really briefly, but you made an impact on me when I was coming to do your show, which was Good Morning La La Land, and my book had just come out, so it was about 2.5 years ago. And I remember, it's a busy studio, there's lots of guests. I mean, it was a fast show because you would have loads of different guests every morning. So there was a kind of that organized chaos energy in the room. And I remember you stood out because you were so calm. And you just held a calmness and a presence. And I felt that from you when we were on the show, but also just in the studio as well. And then Kim Corbin at New World Library said, oh, well, Rob's one of our authors and he has a book called Happiness from the Inside Out. And I said, oh, that makes sense. Because, I tend to think that we author things that are either our passion or our learning, and you definitely embodied somebody who had worked on that.
Oh my goodness, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you saying that. And that feeling is mutual, by the way. I mean, I think it takes light to recognize light. There's no question about it. And every time I've connected with you, I have felt nothing but the most positive, loving vibes. So please know that.
Don't drive with me.
Okay, different scenario.
It all comes out when I'm driving. I have a lot of opinions about other drivers.
It's LA, so
Yeah,
I can
right.
appreciate and understand that. Totally.
Yeah, well, tell us a little, because I know the book came out a while ago and has done very well. It's been out for about a decade now. But one thing that really struck me about not just the book, but also you, is you studied positive psychology, which is something that was new to me. And I know that at the time you took it, you went to University of Penn, you took a master's, but it was still a fairly new thing. So can you explain a little to those of us who are new to it what positive psychology is?
Yeah, so positive psychology is the study and science of what makes life worth living, right? So it's really the study and science of happiness for all of us lay people. And it grew out of the work that Martin Seligman was doing. Before that, he was studying learned helplessness and depression. And he always assumed that if you just remove the mental dysfunction or the weakness or the illness from folks, that you'll get a happy, thriving individual or a happy, thriving couple or organization or team or country. And he found, through decades that wasn't the case, that you can remove kind of what's going wrong with people, but you won't get thriving individuals or couples or organizations. You'll just get flatlining ones. Right? So he was like, we've got to do a better job of studying what's right with people and study strengths and character virtues. And let's put a little bit more focus on, subjective well-being and happiness. And let's talk about success and relationships and some of the things that, are often overlooked, at least from a more positive perspective. And by positive, we mean not just that, it makes you feel good, but also that it's good for society or it's good for organizations. And so it can add to the health of an organization or a team or a couple or an individual. So yeah, it was an incredible program there at University of Pennsylvania. It's a graduate program, and it basically consists of thousands of studies that have been done on the relationship between happiness and success or happiness and love. But it's really about sort of improving the subjective well-being of the world, really.
And what surprised you? Because I'm sure going into that, you already had studied this field in some way, but what surprised you through your learnings?
Yeah, I think the first thing that surprised me was that there was a ton of evidence for things that I heard poets and philosophers and priests and spiritual gurus talk about forever, right? There was evidence behind it. So that was the first piece. It was evidence-based in a real way that supported some of the intuitive leanings I think that most of us have. The second part was that, and this is what really got me excited, was that, happiness leads to success, and success doesn't lead to happiness. I think we hear that as a platitude. It sounds like a cliche, but there's real evidence to support that. So that was surprising to me. So the way I sometimes say it is, happiness isn't only the greatest success, which means it's the reason we want success, right? The only reason we want to achieve or accomplish or acquire anything is because we hope to feel better as a result of it. So it's the greatest success. But also, it leads to success, which essentially means that happy people experience better lives, right? So they live longer, 6 to 7 years longer on average. They make more money than their unhappy counterparts, about $600,000 to $700,000 on average over the course of their entire lifetime. They experience better relationships. They get married earlier, they stay married longer, and they're happier in all the relationships, whether they're married or not, because it's not about being married, it's about being in love or about being happy. Also, you find that happy people experience less job burnout, right? They perform better. While they're alive, they experience better health, right, they're also rated as more attractive, like literally more attractive. You can show folks pictures of the same person, one in which they're smiling, one in which they're not smiling, and people will consistently rate the smiling picture as a more attractive individual.
Isn't that interesting?
It is.
Especially as so many people can say, well, I smiled for the photo, but that was one of the worst days of my life. You know, you hear that story a lot too.
Exactly, that's exactly right. So the other thing is that happy people tend to be kinder and more charitable, and they donate more money and more blood. But also by doing those things, you become happier. So I think what surprised me most was not only what happiness or what causes happiness, but also what happiness causes, what it leads to, the consequences of being happy. So that was pretty profound to me, that like you can prioritize happiness and find a lazier, smarter way to success in every area of your life.
Hi, you're watching a clip from the latest episode of the Impact the World podcast. If you're enjoying the show and also our guest, please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for the love.